Hello YouTube, this is BUB'S Comics coming at you with a DC and independent haul. So we'll get right into it. Some of these are eBay finds and some of them are from the Peddler's Mall. So here's a book I picked up for 75 cents. It's Back to the Future by Harvey Comics. This is not for resale. I'm fairly certain that this is the first appearance of any of the Back to the Future cast of characters in a comic book. This came out, it says Saturday mornings on CBS. So if you're young enough to remember, unfortunately you may remember this. I couldn't stand this cartoon. I guess it was maybe aimed for kids a little younger or whatever, but it was pretty rough, and it mostly followed like Doc Brown's little brat kids, which I didn't enjoy them at all. And the whole thing was kind of goofily drawn. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the cartoon. I liked like maybe the intro. I think I remember liking the intro and seeing the DeLorean fly around. But other than that, I wasn't a huge fan of this one. In any case, this is The Adventure Continues, Back to the Future. Now there is a short run of comics that followed this, but this is the first comic. And again, it's not for resale. So this was a promotional comic to promote the cartoon. So this came out right before the cartoon. Then the cartoon came out, and at the same time that the cartoon came out, they also had a small short comic run of the same characters drawn the same way, basically a continuation of this comic. So pretty cool to have that. And again, for 75 cents, I think this book goes somewhere around 20-30 bucks to get this book, and it is, I'm fairly certain, the first appearance of any of those characters in a comic book. So that's pretty cool. Next we have Virgin Comics number 0, issue number 0. I don't think there were ever any other issues of this, so basically it's like a promo comic. Doesn't have a price on it or anything. It's a promo comic promoting their Virgin Comics. You know, I guess they were going to have their own line of comics. I don't know if it ever really amounted to anything, but I thought that the cover looked pretty cool, and she looks pretty tough, and it looked interesting. I flipped through it. There's some nice art in it, but I really just picked it up as a novelty because I didn't even know that Virgin had a comics group. So I thought that was cool. I thought the art was cool, and it's a number 0, and I'm a sucker for zeros. Speaking of which, here's my only second Vampirella cover that I own. It's Vampirella number 0, Vampirella Revelations number 0, and that Harris Comics put out for only 25 cents apparently, but I guess I picked it up for 75 cents, so that means that it has tripled in value. That's not too hard, right? But I don't generally care for too much of the Vampirella comics when they get real bloody, but this one looks pretty good. I like the artwork. It's very clean. It's not gross or too graphic, so I think it looks pretty cool. So I picked that up. This one was picked up for the Mrs. Bub's. She likes Betty and Veronica, Archie's Girls, Betty and Veronica. It was number 220. She didn't have this one in her collection, so I picked it up. I think I paid like $2 for this one, so that's not too bad. Happy to have it. Here is Spawn number 13, working on a small Spawn run. Really not trying to get all of Spawn comics, but there are some covers that are quite striking, and this one looked pretty amazing, so I couldn't help but pick it up. Spawn number 13, and again for $1. How could I go wrong? And to show you that I have not forgotten about the Marvel fans out there, here is an amalgam comic. It's Amazon, which was a mix of Wonder Woman and Storm. And I gotta tell you, that looks fantastic. I'm super psyched about this comic. Generally, the problem with the amalgam stories is that the writing was so terrible, in my opinion. The writing was just absolutely horrible. The character choices were kind of cool, but the ones that they mixed together, I thought this was a home run for sure. I think that character is fantastic. It looks amazing, just absolutely beautiful. But again, the writing and the backstory that they had done for these were just terrible. So So the beginning origin stories, they were just all so cheesy. But absolutely love that comic, and I'm trying to collect all the amalgams. Again, you can find them in dollar bins pretty regularly, but the problem is that you don't, like if you tried to buy them online, people tend to ask for more money. So the best way to find these comics are in the wild, so that's what I'm doing, and that's how far I've got so far on it. Here is working on my DC Zero runs. Here's Legion of Superheroes number 0, one of the beginning of the Tomorrow sets. And I started picking up some of the 0 Hour events as well that had that symbol on it, but there's a lot more of those because they had maybe 3 or 4 issues per, 3 or 4 issue story arcs per title. So that kind of gets a little bigger than I wanted to get. So I kind of scaled back on it, and I'm just picking up the beginning of Tomorrow lines, and of course I already have the main 0 Hour event storyline. So this is where I'm at on that. Here is Batman Adventures number 18. Really happy to have this one. I think it's a cool cover. It's interestingly drawn, very artistic. And I think it's just cool. So there's Batman Adventures number 18. My son says that is not a mask. He doesn't care for that. That's not a mask. Why doesn't Robin have a real mask on? That's not a mask. So, which you can't really argue with that. It looks more like guy liner. So anyway, which is funny because he has white eyes, but then look what they did for Batgirl. You know, she's just wearing basically the same thing, only without the white. So then we get into some older books. Here is Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 80. So I absolutely love this one, mostly because, first of all, as soon as I brought it home, my wife was like, man, I just love her outfit. She's right. That looks fantastic, man. Look at that short little skirt, and oh man, it looks great. I love her hair and her boots. That's freaking fantastic. She's dressed up to leave him. So it says, at last, the impossible comes true. It's Splitsville for Lois and Superman. Get out of my magazine, Superman. I'm leaving Metropolis to start a new life, one that doesn't include you. She's mad, and it also includes one of my favorite things that they do on covers, and that's to interact with the page. Absolutely, that's got to be my favorite cover, is always one that interacts with the page. So normally this says Superman's Girlfriend, but Lois has ripped off the girlfriend to expose the panel of the next page of the comic, which is really cool. So you can tell it's a panel because look at how they have the speech bubble there, and they have this, which is obscured, of course, partially by the cover. And then they also have obviously a different scene of the Daily Planet, and then they have the well in between the two images. So it's really cool. So she rips off a piece of the cover and throws it down where it says Girlfriend because she's leaving Superman. It's Splitsville, and she's tired of his name being all over her comic. So I just think it's really cool. Nice 12-cent cover. And just fantastic. It's one of the last covers done by this artist too on this run, because shortly thereafter Neil Adams takes over. He had a couple of in-between runs in here as well. Neil Adams did. So here's a couple more of those. Here's Superman's Girlfriend, or here's just Lois Lane, so don't say Superman's Girlfriend anymore. Number 77. And I really like this one. This was in a lot of Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane comics that I picked up because they fetch a pretty high value. These comics in good condition are pretty expensive. And really the entire run, they're all like $15 to $20 or more in a good condition. So it's a pretty good comic to collect and flip if you have a way to sell them, if you have someone out there that you know will buy them, or even an LCS. If you get them in good condition, they sell pretty easy. So I love that it has the Mad Woman of Metropolis, Lois's Witchcraft Curse, Lois Lane Convict, which is one of my favorite ones. I did sell the Lois Lane Convict book just because it was such a good price. I couldn't not flip it. So I was happy to sell it so I could buy more books, right? Other books. Lois Lane's X-Ray Vision, pretty cool. I remember that. I had sold that comic too. Those are both Neil Adams covers. And The Ghost of Lois Lane. Don't know that one. But that's all pretty cool. This is like a $50 comic. I just couldn't bring myself to sell it because it was in such good condition. And I just really, really loved it. This is also a Neil Adams cover. It's penciled by Neil Adams, and someone else did the ink. did the color on it. So this is Lois Lane featuring Lois Lane schemes and dreams to marry Superman. She weds him in his Clark Kent identity. She adopts a secret identity of her own. These are different times she's tried to marry Superman. And then she even makes a deal with the devil, and there's a devil there. So I think that it's all really cool. I really like this Lois Lane. I think she's beautiful. Did a nice job on her all around. Really made her look like someone Superman would probably want to have. Sometimes I feel like Lois Lane, especially in the movies, I always look at Lois Lane in the movies and I think, really? Like, if I was Superman, there's like no way that I put up with that bossy, obnoxious chick. I'd be like, I'm out of here, man. I'm Superman. What are you? You're Lois Lane, reporter? Pfft, please. I'd do better than you walking up and down 5th Street and just picking up a random chick in New York City. I ain't worried about you. So anyway, that's what I generally think about Lois Lane in the movies. However, in the comics, they too tend to draw her much better than they cast her in the movies, and I think she looks pretty good there. So there you go. All right, well that's my fast little independent. Well, didn't turn out too fast, but independent and DC haul. And I hope y'all enjoyed that. And when you get done, crack open an 80-page giant and read it. Thanks. Bye.